Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
Reserve time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the CSL. My name is Toffees. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow, and this is Game 2 of UCLA versus University of Toronto. Should be a whole lot of fun, guys. Now, before we start, I do want to give a shout out to Band Gaming, the official social app of the CSL. Lots of features like creating groups, boards, calendars, polls, chat, and now call functionality. Check them out on Google Play Store, Apple App Store, or download them at band.us. Also, big shout out to Twitch for making this possible. Their support of the CSL from PAX East to West and beyond. Their growth for college gaming wouldn't be possible without the support of Twitch. Last but not least, Asus Republic of Gamers, the makers of the finest esports gaming products, newest members of our team. Really happy to have them on board and excited to see spend the time with them throughout the year, guys. Let's get into talking about this game. The last match, Gorgon, was brutal. I don't know if I have another word for that. Toronto started their pace, ran with it, and really just never gave UCLA a chance to get into the game.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is they outdrafted their opponents, and they played the draft how it needed to be played. Their execution was on point, but it was also much easier for them to do. Hopefully, UCLA come into this game with, I don't want to say a more mainstream sense of how to get the job done, but with fewer outliers in terms of difficulty of execution, right? It's okay if you have one or two heroes, maybe one hero even, that isn't really popular, but you think you can make it work. But when a lot of your draft is composed of things that aren't very popular, don't have high win rates, and also don't necessarily pair well together or against your opponent's team, that's just getting outdrafted. It's not thinking outside the box.
Absolutely. So, Lich, Lifestealer, Underlord, Disruptor. Like you said, already we're seeing UCLA with a little less of a execution desperation draft. They really had to execute right and hit a lot of timing windows to win the last game. Obviously unable to do that. This time around, though, it looks like U of T may still be interested in their split pushing strategy. Underlord, a hero that's very good at that. Also very good at transitions, moving heroes around the map very quickly, has the ability to clear lanes very aggressively, has to make UCLA think as they go into this stage of the draft. So they get the Slardar out, a little bit of a respect ban. I'm sorry, it was on the opposite team last time, wasn't it? No, Slardar was UCLA.
Yes. No, Slardar was... No, Slardar was on Toronto, because remember they were doing the Darkseer Slardar laning.
That's right. So they know how powerful he is, and they ban him out. Don't want any of that control or potential vision. We're going to see the Storm Spirit banned out by the guys from UCLA and the Tinker. So it looks like UCLA's... A, first off, Tinker respect ban. B, not interested in giving the guys from UCLA any extra mobility or split push potential than they have to. So this ban, they have to be talking about it. Do they get rid of some of those heroes that caused them so much trouble last time around? They were a sniper, so what do you think of that sniper ban?
That's probably signature hero of somebody that we're not
Gotta be.
aware of. Like, they're banning a lot of mid heroes, you'll notice.
Yeah.
Storm, Sniper, Tinker. Clearly they thought that mid was a big part of the problem. The Queen of Pain was banned by Toronto last game as a a first wave ban, I think,
Okay.
as well. So maybe that's a comfort hero in the mid here for UCLA and could help them even out that matchup.
It would be nice. We did see a very strong mid game coming from Toronto last time around, so we'll see how it goes this time. They do have a couple of good picks open to them. Ogre Magi picked up again for Toronto, a strong support hero that's going to be very effective with the Disruptor, the slow, the stun, the pullback. It guarantees that kinetic field is going to hit, so a lot of things that will make laning very difficult for whoever is going up against Disruptor Ogre Magi. They've got to be thinking about that right now. Now, Lifestealer obviously has that escape potential, but whoever's supporting him is going to be easy pickings if that's the case.
Yeah, and this is an interesting Shadow Fiend pick. Like, if you're worried about a star mid player, or if you're worried about a particularly skilled mid player, Shadow Fiend is ever since Dota, like this is back in 2005, 2006, right? There was already videos of exceptional mid players taking Shadow Fiend out and really liking to show him off, even when the hero's not particularly good in the meta, which has been semi-frequent, because he does have a couple of skill shots and he's very rewarding to play. Good players tend to know how to play him if they're mid players.
Absolutely. Now
He's like a Pudge, right? Pudge is just fun to play, even when he's not good. Good players are still scary with it.
Well, and keep in mind, right now, Toronto has a copious amount of AoE team fight potential, right? We've got lots of damage coming out from Underlord, as well as the Pit of Malice to hold him in place. Kinetic Field, Static Storm, the Explosion from Thunderstrike, the Ignite's going to be cast all over, tons of multicast potential. Shadow Raz, the ultimate, literally everything on the side of Toronto has the ability to make you regret going in for a team fight. I can see that being a big problem for the lineup from UCLA. Yeah, Lifestealer is not squishy, but everybody else is.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sustain, and they don't have any heal either, which is usually you're going to want some sort of mass heal out if you're going to have a team this squishy. They're very glass cannony right now.
Yep.
Fortunately, there's not a lot of gap close coming from their opponents. Right, which does help. Toronto presumably want to pick up a natural blink carrier here in this last pickup for their carry, I guess.
Well, I think what we might see an Underlord build a blink in this match fairly aggressively would be my guess. An Underlord with a blink Pit of Malice is incredibly powerful in terms of getting you your gap close as a team, and wouldn't surprise me to see them pick something up like that to sort of displace the Queen of Pain Lifestealer bomb initiations, but we'll find out. Last picks are going to be very important here. Centaur Warrunner definitely gives UCLA lots of gap close, but also lots of potential escape, which I think they're going to need in this game.
Yeah, it would be really strange to me if we saw that blink come out early on Underlord, because the Guardian Greaves are going to be a big part of this overall strategy. I think that would normally go on the Underlord here. I guess you could theoretically put it on the Disruptor or the Ogre Magi, but you're not going to get it nearly as early, and your opponents are going to window. You're going to want those Guardian Greaves right when that Lifestealer windows with Echo Saber Armlet.
Absolutely. And and it's a huge counter for the Queen of Pain, massive AoE initiation. Should be pretty interesting. So Juggernaut's going to get picked up in the last position for Toronto, which tells me it depends on how Juggernaut decides to build, but we might see a little bit of for aggression, sort of buying time for Juggernaut to do what he wants to. We saw it last time with their Terrorblade style of play, so it wouldn't surprise me to see it again by any means.
Yeah, the distinction here is probably they're going to group up onto the Juggernaut, whereas last game they grouped up away from the Terrorblade.
That's very, very true. So let's see how this fight breaks down. But before the game gets underway, guys, this is the CSL. You are watching UCLA versus the guys from Toronto. That said, let's do some quick introductions. On the Radiant side, it's going to be the University of Toronto this time. KY going to be playing the carry position with that Juggernaut. We're going to have Death rocking out on the Disruptor. Innovation will be spinning the wheel with the Ogre Magi. And my Dota just crashed, so why don't you introduce Dyer?
All right, and here on the Dyer side, we are going to have Jay Pinto Chill now on the Lich. Mr. Lomao MG is on the Lifestealer. Eski is actually going to be moving in here onto death. We might be seeing a first blood early. I hope you're getting back into the game quite quick. There's going to be the connect field going down. There's just not enough range to get one more with the blink, and that is going to be your first blood going to Guillotine, screaming on the Queen of Pain. They're also in a very strong position to snag this rune. Their opponents realizing what's going on here. Toronto is at least going to send Rift out to grab the rune, so on the other side of the map. So at least they're not going to lose a rune in addition to the first blood. But
Yeah.
very nice play by UCLA to grab that first blood with the smoke invasion.
So we got to hear the radio Dota version of the first blood kill. It's good sometimes, guys, to remind us of our sports roots. The old days when you had to listen to the games on the radio. That's kind of what we wanted to accomplish there. But we're back with the televised version, so you can enjoy it going forward. Innovation goes ahead and gets a nice D ward to start out the laning phase here. Rift up to the top by himself. Dumb Pub's going to head up there as well with the Centaur Warrunner. Should be a lot of fun. And an aggressive tri-lane coming out of the guys here. EC, Pinto, and Lolma going to be interesting. What do you think of this tri-lane coming out here from Dire?
We'll see how it works out for them.
That's a skeptical Gorgon if I've ever heard one.
I think that it has the potential, but there's just not... I think they're going to shut the Jug down, probably. But I just don't see them getting a lot of kills with it. So it really comes down to how well does their Queen of Pain do against the Shadow Fiend mid, and
Right.
how well do they shut down the Underlord? Because Juggernaut can catch back up.
Yeah, no, they definitely thought they'd be going 3-3 down here. You can already see them sort of hesitating because of what's going on in the middle lane right now. That was not part of the plan. Meanwhile, up on top, a little bit of exchange going back and forth. Rift and Dump Ups having at each other very, very aggressively. So UCLA needs to really make something happen here, I think, on the bottom lane. They go for death, unable to lock in the kill. They see Pinto, ping him out. There's the spin from the Jug. A lot of damage output. Good rotation from the Ogre Magi. That'll be Etsy and Lich. So the aggressive tri-lane doesn't only not work, it backfires in an extremely extravagant fashion.
So one of the reasons that I was so hesitant to say anything positive about this tri-lane, there are a couple of reasons, but one of the major reasons is that the Lich never put down the ward, so they can't see any rotations. And as we just saw, with very, very squishy supports and no heals in this lane, a rotation from the Ogre Magi up behind just immediately leads to spin kills. Right?
I think
There's
it's
no way around that.
It's easy to underestimate the damage output of Blade Fury level 1 until it completely obliterates your team. So that's something that they'll be a little more careful of going forward. Death doing a good job of managing the zones, keeping out the support from trying to get around behind the Juggernaut. So he's actually able to get some last hits here at 5-1 up in the mid lane. Let's check in on these guys. It's going to be 12 Necromastery stacks up on the Shadow Fiend. He's having a pretty decent laning phase, 8-4 against the Quap, who can't seem to get things going, 7-2. She had a really hard start because of that Ogre Magi's rotation. Back to the bottom where it's a lot of back and forth. The Disruptor using that really nice spell, the Thunderstrike, one of my favorite early game laning spells if you've got a lane that you've got to keep pushed back with a lot of heroes, and that's exactly what he's using it for. So it's causing a lot of trouble as they try to buy some space for Mr. Lol to get himself some farm. And again, look how fast every time Dire's put a ward down, Ogre Magi's come over and taken it away.
That's really, really good play by Innovation. He's now going to rotate up behind again. There's a kinetic field, just barely misses, and that's going to be a no-go.
they TT toured my disconnect, jerks. Gold lead, by the way, in the favor, just slightly of Radiant. They're doing a good job with these rotations, making sure they sort of manage their farm. And I do want to point something out in defense of the Lich, Gorgon. You said they did not get the ward down to watch for Ogre Magi rotations. They did put it down here initially, and Ogre was able to deward it very fast on his way towards mid. So
when
they
I said
tried.
that, he still had a ward on him.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying they tried.
Sure
they were trying, I guess, to save the other, and it just didn't work out.
I don't know for sure, but I think they put that down after I said that, and then it just got dewarded after that. Yeah.
Because they got one up here. I see what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. So, but taking a look at the other lanes, we're starting to see the Lich rotate around, which is probably good because this experiment of an aggressive try does not seem to have worked particularly well. Queen of Pain is being outlaned pretty well, but by a decent margin, by a factor of 33%, which is pretty substantial.
Innovation
Another
gets a
death for the
haste.
Lich.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah. Things are not going well here.
Ogre Magi is pretty. Haste on Ogre Magi is pretty boss at this stage of the game. In fact, they go for EC. The spin kills him. Spinning and following. J Pento TP's in, but it might actually cause some trouble. KY is going to drop low. Lifestealer shows up as well. They are going to get the kill on KY. Guillotine rotates from the mid. Now Innovation and Death have to back away. So the TP actually ends up paying dividends as they get the return kill on the Juggernaut for a support. So a very nice pick for them. That said, remember, Ogre did get a Lich as well going into that fight, so it ended up being a 2-for-1.
Yeah, and sure, you get that kill, but your Queen of Pain had to rotate out. She's already, when she rotated, sitting at 66% of the farm of her laning opponent, and now she's even farther behind. Moreover, he had all the time in the world to fill his souls completely up, so he's going to do a lot more damage now than he did when she left the lane.
Yep, so that is the danger of leaving a Shadow Fiend alone. I'm sure we're all aware of it, but if you're not, Shadow Fiend alone is a very scary prospect at this stage, filling up those Necromastery stacks. Uh-oh, they found Death and oblige him to his name. Kinetic Field comes out, but being a fish will hold you in just about any aquarium, even if you've created it yourself. Gets locked in and ends up going down. 4-3, a good kill for Dire, much needed at this stage.
Yeah, my concern is that even if they start getting pretty regular kills here, they've fallen far enough behind in terms of net worth that it's just catch up. Like, the Lifestealer is on top net worth, and I did say at the beginning of this lane they'll probably zone the Juggernaut out relatively well. But in terms of the supports, there is nothing sitting on top of this Lich or this Lion, so they're going to be short of useless. You know, when we start to see actual team fights, they're going to be skills with no initiation whatsoever. That's a very dangerous place to have your supports into hero killers like Disruptor, like Shadow Fiend, like Juggernaut even.
So they're going to go again, Kinetic Field as a nice rescue mechanism to keep up the Juggernaut. He'll heal himself back up and move in. Meanwhile, you'll notice Shadow Fiend did resort to the jungle and a rotation. He got a little bit low and wasn't willing to deal with the potential for the co-op damage output. He decides to go bottom and try to get a kill instead as they close in on Lull. Lull goes through the trees, backs away, pops the Lust, and gets himself out of a very sticky situation. But the pullback, he's already popped his magic resist. That means a dead Lifestealer. Nicely done, man. That was beautiful. That vision MVP.
Yeah, that got them a very, very big kill there. And they, of course, wouldn't have gotten that without the vision. The Centaur ulted. The Rage was, I think, well used there. Normally, you would say the Rage until you see the glimpse used. But with an Ogre Magi sitting right there, you can't, right? Because if he gets stunned, then you're not going to be able to Rage before the glimpse anyway. So it was a good call by the Lifestealer.
In the mid-quap, Shadow Fiend. Ooh. So that was exactly what Shadow Fiend was trying to avoid earlier when into the jungle, is that damage output by the Quap. She had a double damage rune, went on him, and was able to get a very nice kill there in the mid position, hurt those Necromastery stacks. You know, it was that ward, though, right? I saw Ogre Magi sort of dicking around in the woods earlier, was wondering, is it worth all this lost time to go and put that thing up? And it turns out it really was, because Lifestealer, he got out of that with the Rage, but he sat right here because he thought, I'm safe now. And, you know, you're not.
Normally a ward up there is not particularly useful in at this stage in the game, right? Until you're physically trying to push down this tower, it doesn't matter to you who's back there. But when you have Glimpse, it suddenly becomes much more interesting who's back there, because you want to be able to grab them as they're running.
And that is exactly what we saw executed really, really well from Toronto. UCLA going to move everybody into the jungle. They bring four come down here looking for a gank. Smoke rotation. Pinto and Guillotine on the assist. Going to go ahead and get the infest, so the bomb is ready. Purple is alone. They ping the courier saying, should we courier or should we kill? They decide not to risk it. They decide to wait until Juggernaut comes forward. He's walking right into their plan. The bait is shown. KY says, this smells like a bait. Moves in. Juggernaut gets caught. It's going to start to run away. Spin is up, so he will go on the run. Loma wants to keep the chase going. No TPs. This should be a very dead Juggernaut. The rest of the team says, all right, we'll just take towers in exchange.
That was a really questionable call. Like, for the Juggernaut, what's particularly interesting about that call is the Lich was standing here. He saw the Lich and ran away. Saw a solo Lich. So he knew that was a bait, right? He had a good sense. But instead of diving back into the protection of his tower and trying to buy time for his teammates to TP in, he tried to strip away into his own jungle where there could be more of them. It seems like he knew better than that.
Do they have a stop for the spin TP?
I don't think he had a TP on him. He didn't.
Oh, he might have just bought it when he landed. Fair.
Yeah, no,
he didn't. You're right. He still doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, so unfortunately, Juggernaut goes down, can't get away. 3K lead. They take two two tier 1s, and then immediately roll down and take the third. So Toronto not only gets, well, I guess UCLA gets the kill, and Toronto comes back and just says, well, we're going to try to take a tower off of this. Meanwhile, in the mid position, Dumb Pubs leads in with the rest of his team. Dyer should be able to take this. Rift comes through, does a nice defensive play. They go ahead and pull back Pinto and get a nice pick off. So Toronto not messing around right now.
Yeah, and they're opening up some space for the Juggernaut, which is great because, as we had mentioned a couple times, Juggernaut had difficulty getting into the creep wave because of this tri-lane. But this is exactly what I was talking about before, right? What are the supports actually going to do here for Dyer's side? Unless the cores open up the opportunity, the supports can't even do anything.
It's an interesting ultimate from Shadow Fiend.
I actually really like that ult. So when you're pushing that tower, they didn't really want to take a fight here. They just wanted to get the tower. And what that ultimate does is even if it taps you a little bit, it gives you that movement reduction, that damage reduction. So with the movement reduction of 25%, you're not going to be able to get out and defend that tower quickly enough.
Right.
With the damage reduction, you're not going to have the incentive to move out. So they knew there were a couple of heroes sitting kind of in the fog of war over here. And that basically, that ult guaranteed that they're going to be able to knock that tower down without any contest. So it didn't get them any kills, but they weren't looking for kills anyway. It's a little atypical use of that spell.
But it bought them the space, and it fits Toronto's style, right? We talked about in the last game, Toronto seems like, it doesn't seem like, they are a very objective-oriented style of play for their team. UCLA tends, I think, to be a more combat-oriented style of play, and Toronto is maximizing their benefit by, again, we see this, splitting away from the fight, allowing the other lanes to farm, and just aggressively trying to maintain lane control.
I mean, the other obvious advantage of that ult, which he had started winding it up and canceled it a couple times before, is because he's expecting the Queen of Pain to blink in. Right. So if he does it right before the tower's about to drop, like that's the last moment the Queen of Pain is going to initiate on you to try and save the tower. So I think it was a very well-timed ult, even though it looked kind of like a whiff. There were a lot of advantages for it, theoretically. Like it had a very low opportunity cost and very high potential dividends.
Hashtag we support your choice to ult. Meanwhile, with TP's away, Lolma going to go ahead and aggressively try to make a move on the Shadow Fiend, forces him back off the lane, but he was happy to farm all the way up to this point before he had to walk away, and that's going to cause a lot of trouble, I think, for UCLA. Look at the net worths right now. It's 1, 2, 3 Radiant cores, and this happened last time around. Is it going to be the same problem for UCLA when we look at how far ahead they are? Does UCLA depend upon an early pace in this game, or can they sort of lay back and get a little more farm and not worry about how aggressive Toronto's being at the moment?
Yeah, I think in this particular case that
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. They move on Dumb Pubs, catch him inside the Pit of Malice. The chase is on. There's the pullback. Pit of Malice will reproc again. Remember, guys, big change to Pit of Malice recently that it doesn't just proc once; it procs every couple of seconds. So Disruptor means you get a total of 4 procs on the Pit of Malice if it is placed correctly in a fight, and that is proving to be very powerful so far in these pushes.
Yeah, and
God, Pit of Malice
again,
4 times. That's
very
ridiculous.
objective-based gaming coming out of Toronto is not something UCLA is prepared to deal with. UCLA as a team are mechanically pretty skilled players, and they do like these very fight and pick and push oriented drafts. But Toronto they seem to be outplaying them in terms of tactics and nothing else. These victories or these advantages that we're seeing is really just a better tactical understanding of the game, or maybe just a specific tactical understanding that plays to the weaknesses of UCLA.
Yeah, we talked about in the last draft. I mentioned UCLA, one of those teams that tends to put some supports up early, is a reactionary style of drafting team, and I think that they play a reactionary as well, but they're very good at it because of their communication and their individual mechanical skill. Toronto is capitalizing on that because of their ability to sort of force them to react the way that they want them to. And this is what they do again. Move forward, give me your prize, going to go ahead and fakes the ultimate, cancels it, gets caught inside of the silence from the Disruptor. This could actually be bad. He pops it off. They want to move back around. Dumb Pubs dropping low. Lion puts out the finger. That's 2 on Dyer, 2 on Radiant, but the push continues. Lolma comes forward. Rift still at full health, as is Innovation. They pop and want to move. They go forward. There is a Pit of Malice in 5 seconds. Got to be careful from behind. Quap comes in to try and get the kill on the Juggernaut. Juggernaut into the trees. Rift dropping low. Guillotine should be able to finish the job. Puts up the Downpour, not going to be enough. Guillotine drops in on him. Pitamalis will slow him down. That buys time for KY with the spin. Wants to go ahead and finish the job. Gets the Lifestealer. Innovation is in very deep. KY will just TP to safety. Innovation will be sacrificed. And that fight ultimately really benefits Dire. Tower survives. What was the ultimate breakdown on that thing? Let's see.
So
4
as
dead.
it comes down, like Dire got a lot more out of that gradient. It turns out to be 4-3, but the two of the heroes that needed catch up, the two cores that needed catch up, the Queen of Pain and the Centaur, didn't die in that engagement. And moreover, that was an extended fight right by a TP point, and it lasted long enough for heroes that died to be able to come back into the fray. I honestly, that fight would have gone much better if Toronto had just decided to back out after the Lichel, lose one hero, and then re-engage. They felt, I think, over-invested in that fight, much more than they really needed to.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, maybe you back off, wait till your Underlord ultimate comes back off a cooldown. They're about 30 seconds away at that point, and then go back into your aggressive pushing, because that's sort of their style right now, is come in, take the tower, and then go ahead and ride Rift to safety if needed, which is a great usage of the Underlord, but just wasn't available at that particular point in time. The mech, by the way, and the Hood of Defiance are both up on the Underlord. He is about to finish up a Pipe of Insight, too, which is going to make their sustainability on these tower pushes absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Gold lead is at 7,500, XP is at 4,000. They still are 1, 2, 3 on the farm chart, and 1, 2, 3 by almost a full 1,000 over the Quap and the Lifestealer. And that, I think, is going to cause some trouble for UCLA. You see that they feel it. They're putting out their heroes to try and get some farm, put a little push on the top, get them off of this tier 2, but they won't. They'll just chip it down. Give me your pride from the outside very easily. Clears off this tower. Rift will clear the wave, and you should see them back off and rotate. Probably, will they stop the tier 1 or just let it go and take out the... Yeah, here they come.
And this is going to be a weird interaction because they TP while Ogre Magi is TPing, so then he TPs again once he lands because of the Dark Rift. Yeah, weird interaction. Anyway.
One of those moments where you're like, you should have told me you were going to ulti.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the ult came before the TP attempted, and then there were a couple pings coming from the Underlord, and Ogre Magi just didn't appear to be listening. So some communication issues, which once again, I think... Overall, I think we've seen maybe slightly better communication from UCLA, but
I stand by that. I think that they're a phenomenal communication team, but sometimes this objective style of gaming just makes it really tough because a good communication team then is forced into being a reactionary, and that ends up costing them.
And it's not really the play style that they're comfortable with.
Exactly.
As we mentioned. That last engagement, though, did help the supports out from Dire side tremendously, like doubled net worth overall, I think, between then and now. That was huge because remember, the supports were the ones that were actually punished by that trial.
Right.
The Lifestealer came out fine. The Centaur came out a little bit behind, but the supports were sitting at like 700 and 1200 net worth respectively, and a lot of that were wards and consumables still. They were both sitting on brown boots, and that's it in terms of long-term items.
Both teams looking across the field at each other. It may as well be Antium as they wait for their chance to make the engagement. Rift in lane, everyone else on standby. Here they go. Jay Pinto gets caught inside of the pullback. There's the ultimate, nicely done by Death. The root by Lomag. Lomag pops his resist, gonna go in and try to make the chase with the rage. Death will go down. Pinto's gonna die to the disruptor. EC on the run, but a nice hex, lots of bounce because of that creep. Hurts the Ogre Magi. Good stun on the back end. We're gonna see the Underlord try to run away. Innovation's gonna go down, so it's a 2 for the price of none at the moment. Rift being chased by Dumb Pubs, and Juggernaut just not able to get there in time. Shadow Fiend not coming at all.
So ironically, this time there was the proper reaction to that Lichel, right? They tried to scatter, but that process of scattering was so almost like clumsy that it ended up costing them the fight. They scattered too much. They ended up scattering in such a way that the Ogre Magi took a huge brunt of that Ice Blast to himself.
He unfortunately got stuck with a creep in the trees that just was too much for him to deal with. So that said, in comes the TP from Innovation, puts him in a tough situation. Pitamalis comes down, Death on the rescue, trying to make the save. Gonna go ahead and send the Lifestealer back. Rift doesn't want to walk away. They end up getting a kill, make it 2 potentially. Dump Pubs wants to run, but they've got the tower as their advantage. Death with the chase. Nice, smart blink by Dump Pubs here. He goes backwards instead of forward. The guys ping him out, but not quite fast enough. So a smart way to try and avoid the trap of those guys coming forward to stop him. He is able to get out, but a nice kill for them on the Lion.
Yeah, a kill on the Lion isn't really that big for them, but it is nice that their opponents overextended, because it will have a psychological effect as well, right? Like, obviously,
Sends a message.
UCLA is the sort of team that likes to be really aggressive. They like to be in control of the pace of the game, and they felt like that was an opportunity to do so. They won 2 fights in a row, and their opponents were kind of on the down and out, on the back foot there. This will maybe put a little slow in their roll next time they win a fight. So it gives Toronto psychologically a larger buffer.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the big keys is they killed the Lion. However, they also forced the TP from the Centaur. They know that they can push the top lane without too much resistance because of that. And not only do they now get the tier 2, they can roll straight into the Sanctuary with the ultimates up that they need to fight should they choose to do so. You're going to see Ogre Magi go ahead and use some invisibility scouting, very smartly so. And the Sanctuary will go down. Now, the wraparound from behind. Death finds Pinto. Pinto doesn't have any backup. This should be the end of him. Meanwhile, in the center lane, Lolma goes ahead, catches the Ogre Magi. Give Me Your Pride comes through. They pop the blade. Now Guillotine gonna have to be able to negate some of that damage. Jumps to safety, gets the finish. Now we see the rotation coming in. Juggernaut and Death on the chase. Juggernaut says, alright, I'll get myself some Ancients. And Lolmag is hiding out here. Give Me Your Pride hunting for him. Infests the creeps and will ride them back to safety.
So this is almost the exact same tale as last game that we're seeing, right? If that one fight that happened up at this tier 2 had happened 4 minutes earlier, then we would be talking about how Dire is starting to spring back into this game. They have an opportunity to open up some space, take some warding, maybe take a couple fights on their own terms. But because it happened with their last tier 2 on its last leg, there's just very little that needs to be done from Toronto to now lean into the remaining outer tier objectives.
Absolutely.
So once again, just a hair too late coming out of UCLA. And I think that largely comes back to Toronto has a very good understanding of game pacing and objectives.
Yeah, Butterfly, by the way, and Dragonlance up on the Shadow Fiend as he is just farming. He's actually been really aggressively farming. Skipped a couple of team fights, skipped the top push, made sure that he got that Butterfly up very quickly before anybody really has an answer for it, right? You've got Lifestealer going into Sands, Yasha, and Armlet. He's nowhere near being able to sort of deal with the Butterfly. I'm not sure anybody will be able to in this game. Goes ahead, makes a nice move there on Lifestealer. He can't do anything to get away. He's silenced and locked in place. That's a big kill that will open up the chance to maybe not push the high ground, but definitely take out the secondary Sanctuary and roll around a Roche.
Yeah, and
looks like
they're
they might
just
push.
going to go straight on the high ground. Without the Lifestealer here, you can be relatively confident Lifestealer does not have a buyback right now, because he recently finished an item. You saw it. He hasn't had any avenues for farm, and it's early in the game. It's too early in the game for him to realistically be saving buyback.
Wow. Hex going out. They try to jump right into the regen of the Sanctuary. Big ultimate's going to bounce everyone. Everyone locked in place, but the damage just not strong enough. They get 1. They get 2. They'll roll back. They take out the tower. They're going to go for the racks. Still no buyback, or still no life stealer to help stop this fight. EC puts out some damage. Give Me Your Pride acts like he's just going to go ahead and melt him down, and everyone's got to run because they're scared it might actually happen. Big TP out by... There you go. Underlord will take him straight to the bottom lane, and... Oh, he takes him to the top. Nice, actually. I like this. So TP by KOI to bottom, while Underlord takes the rest of the crew to top, so they can just split out the push on the other 2 sides.
Yeah, make sure that they're maintaining control of the map, even though they just took the mid-racks. And the mid-racks, of course, the best racks have at the stage in the game.
Mid-racks, best racks.
It's not always going to be the case that the mid-racks is your best barracks to take out, but especially if you're doing potentially split pushing, it's really nice because now your opponents are going to have to be defending the largest possible gap between, and the creeps will naturally push out the fastest that they possibly could.
They found the Juggernaut. Juggernaut's going to spin into the trees. Nice blink. He gets himself out of a very gnarly gank that came from all sides. Runs to the safety of his family, who's invisible. If they try to follow up on this gank, it could cost them big, and it just might. They're closing the gap. They're coming out of the trees. They're going to find Lol by himself. He pops his rage. Is it going to be enough? No, he's getting burnt down from all all sides. Big stun from Lion. Lol trying to get away. Centaur pulls his ultimate. He does survive and manages to get out, but everything's caught, and Centaur is in the mix. He's going hard into the suck and ends up going down. EC from behind puts out the finger on Juggernaut, but does not get the kill. That may cost EC as the blinks come out. EC trying to run for the high ground, spins, gets lost back with the disruptor. Not going to go anywhere. Now Lol comes forward again, pops the rage, but the right click is so big from Give Me Your Pride. Meanwhile, Rift comes forward, locks out the Lich and the Quap who wanted to help. Fast Lifestealer will get to the high ground and get away, but Lich will very likely get picked off in the interim and allow a push right to the high ground. Not only did they get a huge fight, but they were able to get the creeps on the tower as the fight ended. This is turning into a massacre for UCLA.
Yeah, I don't think there's any coming back from this, to be honest. Once again, UCLA drafts no wave clear, so they have no spring potential later on. They really went very all in again into the we will win our fights in the mid game, and once again, the pressure on objectives was too much for them to react.
Yeah, Toronto came into this game Kings of the North, but they will be leaving Kings of the West division as they have absolutely dominated this game and shown just how good they really are. Guillotine pops the blade mail, has to back away. That means initiation will be tough for him on the backside. Innovation goes invisible, running away from Lol. Big bounce on the Glitch ulti. This is a good one. Will it be long enough? Guillotine comes in, pops her ultimate from behind. Silenced by Disruptor. Willie, nice played. Forces the Quap to go backwards. She's dropping very low. Give Me Your Pride finishes the job. She can't blink to safety. She buys back immediately. Lol uninfests, and they will have to back out. The GG's comes out from Pinto before the last Rax falls. The fights are still going on. Underlord will just TP his family away. And the GG goes through. UCLA not wanting to try and play it out. They saw the writing on the wall, and Toronto blanks UCLA in an amazing show of objective-based gaming. 25-minute. Do you have a player of the game or a play of the game that you think set that thing apart?
You know, I would be willing to give player of the game to death on the Disruptor.
Yeah, I think so.
He had a very, very high kill participation. He was a huge factor in terms of the early game control. And in a lot of those fights, he ended up taking a fair amount of his opponent's aggro that we didn't really call, because you don't necessarily call it out when a support is taking aggro from a lifestealer, but he did a really good job of keeping the focus on himself.
He did, and he hit those ultimates perfectly, hit him with the kinetic. Now, granted, his comboing with the Underlord, it was absolutely phenomenal, though player of the game does go to Disruptor, so a big shout out to Death for a really nice play. He is our banned player of the game. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow. You can find all of us at C Star League. And finally, a big shout out to our sponsors for making this possible. Band Gaming, the primary social app of the CSL, Twitch, the #1 streaming platform in the world and a huge supporter of collegiate esports, and Asus Republic of Gamers, the maker of some of the best the best esports equipment in the world. Guys, they're the reasons that we get to do what we do. We love them for it. So thank you very much for supporting Collegiate Dota. Come back Tuesday night. Myself and Gorgon will be here again with even more collegiate action. It's been wonderful spending the evening with you guys. And as always, Toffees out. This has been your evening with the CSL guys. This is Toffees. I hope you had a wonderful evening hanging out with us. And I'll leave you with Fever and a message that I hope you take to heart, and that is sleep easy.